Does this story sound familiar to you? A monogamous man and woman decide to open up their relationship and explore the wonderful world of polyamory. They join a bunch of non-monogamous communities and set up brand new profiles on dating apps. The woman gets tons of attention flooding into her messages right away, and the man gets, well, crickets. What happens next kind of depends. They might go back to monogamy, the man might get super jealous and start controlling the woman's relationships, they could break up, or they could work through it and continue their polyamory journey. But in all of these scenarios, the man goes through a pretty bad time. If you're a man who finds himself in any chapter of this story, you should know that you're not alone, and it doesn't mean that you're bad at polyamory. So why is this story so common? Why do polyamorous men have such a tough time dating? No, it's not because you suck and nobody wants you. One small and simple answer is that women tend to embrace their queerness a little bit more, which just means a bigger dating pool. A bigger reason is that polyamory is perceived very differently when a man expresses it versus a woman. When a woman says they're polyamorous, the average man goes, "Ha, well they'll be easy to sleep with." And when a man states they're polyamorous, the average woman thinks, "Ugh, he probably just wants to sleep with me." Both of these are false assumptions, but they have opposite effects on the attention that men and women get. But in my opinion, by far the biggest reason that polyamorous men have such a hard time getting attention is, drumroll please, other men have ruined dating for us. From our perspective, it can seem like our women partners are having the best time in the world, but the grass is not always greener on the other side. Is polyamorous dating really as good for women as it seems? Although attention is often easier to get, women have a much different problem when it comes to polyamorous dating. I'm now going to show you an actual real video of a polyamorous woman's DMs from men. Unfortunately, for every upstanding, legit man looking for a genuine connection, there are countless scumbags chasing every woman they possibly can to use as a human sex toy. And the very reasonable response from women is to be incredibly cautious and selective about the men they talk to. So what can we do about it? There's not much we can do to change the dating scene itself. That is a huge cultural problem that will take a lot of time to change. But there are things we can do on an individual basis. The first thing we can do is consistently remind ourselves that our lack of attention is largely due to the dating environment and not a reflection of our worth as people. Another thing we can do is remember that polyamory is not a competition and we do not have to keep up with our partners. In fact, trying to keep up might be actively hurting your dating life. Regardless of gender, people smell desperation, and if you're so desperate to keep up with your partner, you might be steering people away from you. As much as it sucks to hear because it's not an immediate solution, everybody has their own pace when it comes to relationships. Time and patience are our biggest allies. Speaking of time, another thing we can do is set expectations of time with our partners. A lot of our negative emotions actually come from the sense that we are not getting what we feel like we need from a relationship. Communicating our wants of time and attention with our partner makes them an active participant in helping us feel better. Make sure you're being fair with these requests though. It's pretty unreasonable to expect your partner to be focused on you every waking minute of the day. Another thing we can do is ask for reassurance. As men, a lot of us grew up learning that asking people for emotional support means you're weak, but that's nonsense. Directly asking for reassurance means that you value your emotional well-being and that you're taking active steps to manage your negative emotions. Another easy and practical thing to do is to audit any dating profiles you have. Do you have decent photos? Does your bio put a positive spin on what you're all about and what you're looking for? Things like that. Now that I've talked about what we can do about it, let's talk about what we should not do about it. Men, this next part might be a little tough to take in, but hear me out. Although it's an understandably frustrating situation, that does not give us a free pass to be toxic in the ways that we deal with it. Sometimes this lack of attention can lead to bitterness and resentment toward our women partners or women in general. It's not their fault, and we should not vent our frustrations by lashing out at women. Another common way that men cope with this scenario is to complain about being a man. Guys, this comes off really tone deaf. That crappy feeling that you get from having to work so much harder to get the same thing, that sense of being held back because of your gender, that's what most women feel all the time about everything. Even though polyamorous dating can be quite difficult for men, we need to realize that in a larger context, cis men are the most privileged gender ever. It's not even close. This is not to dismiss our challenges, but to complain about being a gender that has such widespread privilege is not a good look. Even worse, if you complain about it to someone who you're trying to date, that's a surefire way to lose their attention. I would go so far as to say our privilege is what has allowed other men to ruin dating like I mentioned earlier in the video. Men, I say all of this as someone who has been there. I entered the world of polyamory from a monogamous marriage, and at first I was completely overwhelmed by the amount of attention my wife got. But obviously it worked out in the end because now I have a whole YouTube channel about how and why I'm happily polyamorous. Speaking of which, you might also benefit from my 10 polyamory dating mistakes video that I'll link right here. If you found this video useful, there is a whole lot more to come, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when I post. And this Consent is Hot shirt, it's my own design, so if you like it, I'll have my shop link in the description. Until next time, peace.